A Texan walks into a pub in Ireland and clears his voice to the crowd of drinkers. He says, "I hear you Irish are a bunch of hard drinkers. I'll give $500 American to anybody in here who can drink 10 pints of Guinness back to back." The room is quiet and no one takes up the Texan's offer. One man even leaves. 30 minutes later, the same gentleman who left shows back up and taps the Texan on the shoulder. "Is your bet still good?" asks the Irishman. The Texan says yes, and asks the bartender to line up 10 pints of Guinness. Immediately, the Irishman tears into all 10 of the pint glasses, drinking them all back to back. The other pub patrons cheer as the Texan sits in amazement. The Texan gives the Irishman the $500 and says, "If you don't mind me asking, where did you go for that 30 minutes you were gone?" The Irishman replies, "Oh, I had to go to the pub down the street to see if I could do it first." A crab is fond of a new car, so he goes to a car dealer. He asks the dealer how much it will cost. The dealer, wanting to poke fun at a talking crab who wants to buy a car with no money, says, "It's going to cost you an arm and a leg." The crab, fancying the car, amputated his limbs before the car dealer had finished his sentence. "So where are the keys?" said the crab. "The police are going to claw at you for driving with only one arm and 7 legs, responded the car dealer. The crab responded, "What will the cost to get out be an arm and a leg?" My crush called me yesterday. She was like, "Hello, handsome. I am so hungry right now. Please, can you come to my house? And when coming, please, buy a big chicken so that I can prepare something delicious for us to eat." Though I was very broke, I looked for where they were selling chicken and bought a big one and went to her house. She then slaughtered it, cooked only 4 pieces for us to eat, and she put the rest inside the fridge. Just 10 minutes into her cooking, someone called her and she went outside to answer the call. After receiving the call, she told me that her brother was on the way and she would not like her brother to meet me in the house, and that if he met me, he wouldn't be happy. So, she said I should go, that she would call me when her brother leaves. So I peacefully went to the saucepan of food, picked the 4 pieces of chicken, opened the fridge, took the rest, and went to my house. Since yesterday, I have been calling her to know if her brother has left so that I can go back, but she is not picking my calls. My people, did I do anything wrong? Daughter's text to dad. "Daddy, I'm coming home to get married soon, so get your checkbook ready." Lou. "As you know, I'm in Australia and he's in the US. We met on a dating site, became friends on Facebook, and had long chats on WhatsApp. He proposed to me on Skype, and now we've had a 2-month relationship through Viber. Dad, I need your blessing, good wishes, and a really big wedding. Lots of love, Lily." Dad's reply. "My dear Lily, wow. Really? Cool. Whatever. I suggest you two get married on Twitter, have fun on Tango, register for your stuff on Amazon, and pay for it all through PayPal. And when you get fed up with this new husband, sell him on eBay. Lots of love, Dad." A guy from the country has some work to do in the city. It's all paperwork, and he hates that shit. When he finally gets everything finished, he decides to stop and have a beer before driving back home. Unfortunately, the first place he stops is a posh fern bar. The bartender goes, "Dude, I can't serve you in here looking like that. Everyone here is in suits and dresses. Can't you at least put on a tie?" Guy goes back out to his truck. He fishes around looking for anything that he might be able to use. He digs out some jumper cables, ties them around his neck, and tucks the ends down his trousers. He goes back inside the bar. That bartender looks at him and goes, "Okay. Just don't start anything." A guy is caught by a ranger eating a bald eagle and is consequently put in jail for the crime. On the day of his trial, the conversation went something like this. Judge, do you know that eating a bald eagle is a federal offense? Man, yes, I did. But if you let me argue my case, I'll explain what happened. Judge, proceed. Man, I got lost in the woods. I hadn't had anything to eat for 2 weeks. I was so hungry. Next thing I see is a bald eagle swooping down at the lake for some fish. I knew that if I followed the eagle, I could maybe steal the fish. Unfortunately, in the process of taking the fish, I killed the eagle. I figured that since I killed the eagle, I might as well eat it since it would be more disgraceful to let it rot on the ground. Judge: the court will take a recess while we analyze your testimony. 15 minutes goes by and the judge returns. Judge: due to the extreme circumstance you were under and because you didn't intend to kill the eagle, the court will dismiss the charges. But if you don't mind the court asking, what does a bald eagle taste like? Man: well, Your Honor, it is hard to explain. The best I can describe it is maybe kind of between a California condor and a spotted owl. Sitting on the side of the highway waiting to catch speeding drivers, a state police officer sees a car puttering along at 22 miles per hour. He thinks to himself, this driver is just as dangerous as a speeder. So he turns on his lights and pulls the driver over. Approaching the car, he notices that there are 5 old ladies, 2 in the front seat and 3 in the back, wide-eyed and white as ghosts. The driver, obviously confused, says to him, "Officer, I don't understand. I was doing exactly the speed limit." What seems to be the problem? "Ma'am," the officer replies, "you weren't speeding, but you should know that driving slower than the speed limit can also be a danger to other drivers." Slower than the speed limit? No, sir. I was doing the speed limit exactly 22 miles an hour, the old woman says a bit proudly. The state police officer, trying to contain a chuckle, explains to her that 22 was the route number, not the speed limit. A bit embarrassed, the woman grinned and thanked the officer for pointing out her error. "But before I let you go, ma'am, I have to ask, is everyone in this car okay? These women seem awfully shaken, and they haven't muttered a single peep this whole time," the officer asks. "Oh, they'll be all right in a minute, officer. We just got off Route 119. A truck driver sees a girl about to jump off a bridge, so he stops. "What are you doing?" he says. "I'm trying to commit suicide," she says. The sleazy driver says with a sly grin, "Well, before you jump, why don't you give me a blowjob?" So she does. After she's finished, the trucker says, "Wow, that's a wasted talent. Why are you committing suicide?" "My parents don't like me dressing up like a girl." Old Joe, the blind fur trader, walks into a bar. After sitting down and folding up his blind poking stick, he says, "I'll bet anyone here $50 here I can guess what your pelt is and what you killed it with." The first taker throws a pelt on his table. Joe feels the fur, tests its texture and smell, feels the wound of the killing blow, says, "Raccoon, killed with a .22. Wins his $50 and buys a round for the house. A second taker puts a large pelt on the table. Joe feels the fur, tests its texture and smell, feels the wound of the killing blow. Says, "Bear, killed with 212 gauge deer slugs." Wins his $50 and buys another round for the house. The third guy wants to have some fun and mess with Joe, so he gets his girlfriend to get on the table and spread eagle naked. Joe feels the fur, tests its texture and smell, feels the wound of the killing blow. Think about it. Check again. Finally says, "Skunk, killed with a hatchet." A policeman is driving past a roadside apple stand when he notices the sign, "Apple seeds, guaranteed to make you smarter, $20 per seed." He pulls over and informs the vendor that it is fraud and false advertising to make absurd claims like this. "No, no, no," the vendor tells the cop. "My apples are a special variety." A scientific miracle. Buy just one seed, eat it, and you will notice an increase in intelligence. If not, I promise to refund your $20. "All right," says the cop, "but if this doesn't work, I'm shutting your operation down." He hands over a $20 bill, takes the seed, chews it up, and waits for it to kick in. After a few moments, he says, "You know, even if you're not lying, I could have bought a whole bag of your apples and had enough seeds to last me months." "Ah, yes," says the vendor. "It's working already." A guy was standing in line at a pharmacy and overheard the person in front of him purchase a box of suppositories. Not knowing what they were and unwilling to show his ignorance by asking, he decided to buy a box himself. Upon arriving home, he opened the box, slipped out one of the sheets, and pressed out one suppository from the foil wrapper. He squished it between his fingers, smelled it, couldn't figure out what it was. He poked the tip of his tongue out and brushed the suppository along it. No taste. He nibbled a bit off the tip, and it had a gelatinous texture. Bit off a larger piece, chewed it a few times, and swallowed it down. He removed another from the foil and repeated the process. Before he knew it, he had eaten the whole box. He returned to the pharmacy the next day, waited in line, and when it was his turn, purchased another box. He returned home and consumed the lot. The next day he returned, and the next, too. This went on for a week, and the pharmacist, who had noticed his new regular customer and his strange purchasing behavior, confronted him and asked, "Could you tell me what the hell it is that you're doing with all of these suppositories?" And the guy replies, "Pfft. What the hell do you think I'm doing, shoving them up my ass?" A guy walks into a bar. He sits down and strikes up a conversation with the bartender. "Hey, want to make a bet?" The bartender shows some interest. "What's the bet?" The guy tells the bartender, "If I can ask myself a question and answer it, you have to give me a free drink." The bartender looks at the guy strange. That sounds like a stupid bet. But the guy adds, "If you can ask yourself a question and answer it, I'll pay twice the price for the drink." "Oh, I get it now," the bartender said. "Well, since you proposed this bet, why don't you start first?" The guy nods, "All right." He then asks himself the question, how can a rabbit dig a hole without pushing any dirt out the top? The guy then answers, "It starts from the bottom." "Wait a minute," the bartender said. "How'd it get to the bottom then?" The guy grins, "I don't know, that's your question." A contractor is taking a tour with a client discussing color themes. "Green side up!" the contractor yelled out the living room window as he turned his attention back to the confused client. "Ah, yes, you definitely want a neutral tone for a room of this size, and a decorator can help pick out the right furniture to accent." The client relaxed and completely agreed with his insight. "Well, through here is the kitchen, and as you can see with all the natural light, green side up!" The contractor yelled out the bay doors. He clears his throat and tells the client, "Of course, with the light coming in here naturally, you don't want a high gloss finish. You'll have to wear sunshades every time you fix breakfast." They both have a laugh, and she shrugs it off and tells him that the room upstairs had given her the hardest time as she leads him to the stairs. Once upstairs, she starts to explain what she would like to see up there when he cuts her off, goes to open the window and yells, "Green side up! Green side up!" The client, having tolerated the outbursts until now, exclaims, "I don't have any idea what you are thinking, yelling outbursts like this during a walkthrough of my new home. Very inappropriate, sir." The contractor sighs and shakes his head while rubbing his brows. He says to the client, "Madam, I cannot apologize enough. I know it's improper and looks unprofessional, but please understand. I have brand new crew laying the lawn turf for the landscaping next door, and they're all blondes."